Alright, so I think it's going live now. I don't know. We're gonna see here in a second. Boy, that picture I posted for a thumbnail is very low resolution. But let's see. Do I want to try YouTube Premium? No, I don't want to do that. So, alright. I am going to ZBrush here. Let me check something here and see. If I go here, so I have game capture, I gotta go to display capture. There we go. I'm assuming it's working over here. It's showing me ads on currently. About, alright. So, I have purchased some rolls of pt2, some fresh rolls. I've got a bunch of partial rolls, which probably be fine, but I just don't want to mix and match a bunch of different color pt2 to make a print. So I'm going to go over it with this, and these are the printable shorts that I'm working on now. I'm just trying to go up and just give a little extra sharpness on some of these details and make sure they're as even as possible, because they're a little wonky. See the little wobbles and so forth. So I'm going to try to get those cleaner, and then my goal is to print a set this evening, and hopefully by tomorrow we will be in business with having a look to see how they are, see if I need to adjust anything, because I want to get this file on Patreon. I'm still working on the foam ones, but this week it's been a little busy, so I haven't touched anything since last time I was on here. So anyway, I'm going to brush Damien Standard BDS. Bring up the Damien Standard brush. And I'm going to put this on Matte Cap Sculpey. This one is better. Is it Matte Cap Sculpey? No, Matte Cap Brown. This one. This is the one that looks the most like how the print will look. Doesn't oversell it. Protocol Cosplay. Yo, how's it going? I am back. I'm working on the printable shorts today for a little bit, and then I might be back on the foam shorts this evening. Natalie and I are going to see a movie in a little bit, so I'm going to be gone for a little while. I'm trying to just rework these guys here and see how it goes. Let me see if I got lazy mouse on. So you can see that little line that trails behind my brush there. That's called lazy mouse, and that will help to even out some of the wobbliness in the, like you can see how in here it's just kind of weird. Some of this is on the real piece, and some of it just happens in the process of reworking the lines and so forth. So I'm trying to level it out. You can see that little trail behind should help to average out the brush stroke to eliminate as many of those wobbles as possible. You can see it's pretty easy here. You can see how they get traced around. You got muted. No longer muted. Okay, so that's cool. I don't know what that's all about. Maybe I hit something. I don't know what the deal is. But so yeah. So anyway, I'm just trying to average these things down, get these butt lines sculpted out. Just again, some of the weirdness is in the actual part. So I'm trying to preserve as much of that as possible, but like keep it clean. And it's funny because when you do it all in like, Fusion 360 or something, it ends up becoming very overly clean. So trying to get it, the right amount. Hold on a second, sorry. Somebody's writing me on my other line. Email. Ooh, I'm getting email. We got pictures. I modeled for makeup yesterday as a caveman, and they just sent me photos. And I'll show you what it looks like on the. Let's see here. Did you get my PM? I did not. Was it on where'd you send it to? On Instagram or Facebook? I don't know if this shows up here. I can't see myself. But that's me from yesterday. Still have this bracelet on my hand from something. I'm gonna take that off. Did not get a PM as of yet. I mean, it's probably there, but I just haven't seen it. When did you send it? Is that in the last day or two, or is that a few days back? Facebook. I did not. Let me go look right now. I have most of my messages. Let's see. Let's see here. I got a million messages. I have not looked at half these things yet. I'm scrolling down from Friday. Ah, gotcha. Cool. Yes, now I have the message. I'll write you back right now. Da-da-da. All right. Yeah, I can do that. But currently I'm going to finish out this piece here so that so I can get these suckers printing and we can examine whether I sharpen this line a little bit. Now again, on the real shorts, this is a little bit softer than the line I'm making here, but I'm intending on doing these as FDM prints, and just the process of cleanup and paint and everything should put this about back to where they are on the screen used. So I am doing this knowingly, just so you know. So if you see them, you're like, it's not that sharp. I know that. But again, this should be cool. Well, 3PO suit files drop on your Patreon. The suit files is going to be a little while. I'm going to be working on those in pieces, so it'll probably be like, I'll probably start with like the basic stuff, hands, feet, legs, and just my versions of those things, because there's some of them that are I'm in the process of redoing for myself, and then I'll move over to torso, and I'm probably going to do legs. Will probably be pretty soon, like soon-ish, and by soon-ish it's like my schedule is crazy, so that's just higher on the list because I want to put up the files for my leg lamp. So I got to get the right leg done and get that sucker going. So it'll be probably like legs and feet. Probably work on the feet as a pair, and then legs. And I'm going to do the feet kind of like I was talking about this the other day. It'll be more like the sequel suit feet, the way that they assemble, so the sides won't be so weird and wonky. I don't know if I have a foot around here somewhere. But like the screen used feet they're weird shaped on the bottom, just because I feel like the castings that are out there have been worn and they're kind of like, I don't know, they just got a funky shape to them. And I'm going to correct that and just try to make them nice. And I'm going to do the same thing where I keep split foam template, so you could do 3PO, CZ3, RA7, which technically RA7 is a little tiny bit different. And I got a theory about why that is that I'll get into at some point. But I feel like the RA7 legs are like an earlier version of the protocol droid legs than the like CZ3 and 3PO, which are kind of different in a way. And whoops, that's not what I want to do. BDS. the 3PO legs, the way the detail is on the legs, it almost looks like the RE7 legs were a more primitive version of the legs in the, in the scheme of making these films, and that the details, instead of being added to the surface of the legs, I think they were sculpted in. So if you took like the whole volume of the RE7 leg and then traced out where all the piping detail would go, and then like physically sculpted in and left the piping detail behind, versus like cutting strips of clay and putting it on top, that's what it looks like to me, the way that they're done. And I think that the RE7 leg was an earlier version that's a little bit beefier than the 3PO leg, just a little bit, like, maybe like a 1/8 of an inch, a little bit more, which is kind of like the height of that piping detail. So I'm going to do slight different version of that. And so with the protocol droid legs for Patreon, could those shorts be made where they're solid, so you could print them out in one and walk like you did with your leg? Yeah. That's exactly what I want to do. That's how they're going to be. I'm going to make 2 versions. So the one that I'm making that I want to wear for myself is going to be just like that. It's going to be printed one wall. I can make them solid, but I think I'm just going to make them so they print really thin. Like, I think I want these to be, I'll make a version that's like that, so you can just print it with just hollow and print it. That'd probably be fine. But I want to do one that's about, I don't know, it's got a variable internal surface thickness. That's kind of what I want to do for mine, where down at the very bottom it's pretty thin, maybe like 1.6 millimeters thick, like 2 passes, and then as it gets towards some of these top parts up here, it gets a little bit thicker. It'll help it hold its shape at the top better, but then at the bottom it's thinner, so it can flex a little bit more. I'm printing these in pt2, which is a little bit more of a flexible, it's not as flexible as TPU, but it's got more flex to it than PLA or ABS or something. So that's going to be my test. I'm going to try to print a wearable set out of pt2 and see what needs to change on them. And I want to run a set. I want to start a set tonight on my printer. So that is my goal. But I am going to a movie in just a little bit. So I'm going to be leaving here in probably like less than 45 minutes. But I figured I would pop on here and do some of this while I can. I only worry about layer adhesion. Been working with pt2 for everything I do, and sometimes it can crack. That's interesting. Yeah, I've never had an issue with it. And the thing is, like, you could always print it with something else. I mean, it's not, I'm not married to that material. You could always print them in TPU or something. There's different durometers of TPU as well. And again, typically for my stuff, I'm going to coat the inside with something, I think. For my own, I'll probably print them and then do a coating. It's probably going to be like a flexible urethane just on the inside, just as support, but like a brush in like 1 or 2 layers. So if it were to crack, it wouldn't just fall apart. But we'll see. If it's terrible, then I just make another one and call it. And I just keep posting the versions as I go. And kind of like Michael Badley does with all the R2 stuff. When he improves it, post new versions, and just either delete the old versions or leave them up as like legacy things. Because sometimes there's things that people like about an old version, even if it's not the best one. And so I figure I may as well just do them. Say this is the most current, and if you want the old ones, they're still here. But yeah, that should be it. I've scanned a couple of my 3PO heads as well, and those are going to be a little bit more work. I'm going to try to really sort them out, because I want them to be I eventually want to print them and mold them and then do castings, but I'll put the files up once I get them done. And I just want to cast them in a specific material, and I want to do cord mold. They're kind of like those ones that they tried to make for Empire Strikes Back that ended up not being used on screen, but they're like white resin castings of the 3PO heads. And I like the way they're made, but apparently they shrunk a little bit too much, and either that or the wall thickness might have been just a little heavier, because with the resins you got to make them just a little bit thicker to accommodate for the strength, whereas fiberglass you can go very thin and have like the fiberglass walls. Apparently Anthony Daniels didn't like them. They made, I don't even know, probably like 16 or 18 of those white resin heads, a bunch of them for backups, and they're pretty cool. Pop Center, what movie? Oh, I missed out. For the heads, the 3PO heads that I'm working on, there will be A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back are the two that I'm kind of cast from. Empire Strikes Back / Return of the Jedi. Those use the same heads. And I kind of want to do my own version. It's going to be kind of a hybrid between the two. So I wanted to assemble like the Empire Strikes Back head, because they fixed some stuff. Like the New Hope head is a little finicky to put together. When you see them, it's like it's like it works, but it's not the best design. And they fixed it for Empire Strikes Back. So the Empire Strikes Back heads go together in a way that I like. But I feel like the New Hope face in particular is just the most pure version of 3PO. It looks the most like how it should, in my opinion, to the original sculpt. The mouth is just crisper and bigger, and it just looks better. But I want it to go together like the Empire Strikes Back head. So if you're wearing it, it's easy to put together. And I might just do a version that's a one-piece print of a whole head, so that people could just print the head in one shot. If you're never going to wear it, there's no point in having it open and close. You may as well just print the whole thing, and you can just pop the eyes in and have a whole head, especially for people that want to do like a Chewbacca on a backpack or something. There's no real reason to open the head up, you know. And maybe if you're doing animatronics, you want access, but like you could just pop the head off and, you know, reach inside and do whatever. And I think that will be, you know, just as effective. I'll see what people want. I'll probably maybe just make it, and if people want that one, they can get it. But we'll see. I think Bob was asking what movie you go. What movie you gonna see? Thank you. You're probably correct. Sorry, Bob. I'm an idiot. It's what is it? Companion? Is that the one? It's like the robot girlfriend that goes haywire or something. I saw the trailer for it. It looks fun. And my wife was like, "You want to see that movie?" And I was like, "Yes." So we are leaving here in right about 5 o'clock. So technically like 35 minutes or something. I gotta take off. And this thing, I may get this. I don't know if I should. So this is the thing with these guys here, these little bolts. I think what I'm gonna do is make a clean model and attach it to the shorts, because on the cast shorts like this, like on the real ones, the bolt is attached as part of it. But for printing, what I think I'm going to do is, instead of having to worry about a support material here, I'm going to put a little fin right under here, so that you don't need a support to print the shorts, like for this little bolt. So it just has its own little support to get it started, and from there it should be okay. And the insets here for the kind of like, you know, Phillips head screw tip are kind of rounded on the inside, so I don't think it needs any support on the interior to make it work okay. We should see. Beetle Nation, howdy G, hello. So anyway, this is the fun thing. And I don't know if you guys saw my post with the Forlom shorts, but it's funny because you can, like, when you straighten them out, like if you see the Forlom shorts, they're shaped like just like these that I made. They have the gap in the legs is just like this. It's weird, but when you squish them in and straighten it, it causes the bowing, which you get all this. Which I'm leaving all this in place so that it feels like an authentic 3PO suit, you know, from the original trilogy. It's going to have the asymmetrical kind of warping, all this is staying. The only thing I've done to make it symmetrical is I've made the leg opening symmetrical for my own sanity. If I'm going to wear them, I can't. If they're one's tighter than the other, it's going to make me nuts. So that's where I've taken some liberties. It's also a part that nobody really is going to ever see once it's in the suit. And on mine, I don't know if I'm going to print it this way, but on mine, I always cut out the bottom here. All of these two aren't the ones I wear. Let me see. I got a gold set that I wear. I'm going to grab it here. So this is one of the sets that I wear sometimes, and it's made off of the same mold that I did this one for, but it's made out of fiberglass, so it's really hard. So I've cut the legs up. This is kind of how I do my vacuum form shorts too. I cut the legs really high in the front, so that it just makes it a little easier to walk and move in. But you can see I cut a slot out right in the middle here, and this gives it some flex this way. It also makes it so that when it flexes like back and forth like this, you can see how the legs move, and when it's in the legs, the legs move. The legs of the trunks kind of move independently. It makes it a lot easier to walk than when they're just one piece. So when I print mine, I may just print it and then I'll just cut them in after the fact. But once I kind of figure out how much I want to take out, I'll probably post a set with the things pre-cut, which is again how I like it. It makes them feel more like the vacuum form shorts, but retains the shape of the proper shape with no seam lines on the sides or anything. And I think that works real nice. And I really like these, but they're not as easy to walk in just because of this part of the shape here. They're kind of flared, which again, if they're flexible, that wouldn't be a problem, but fiberglass, giant pain. So I'm gonna hopefully hit that middle ground with these pt2 ones. Did you see the Return of the Jedi C3PO at the National Museum in American History in Washington, D.C.? I haven't seen that one in person. However, I think that the torso on my suit is related to the one on that exact suit. I think is the torso on my suit is related to that torso. There's some markings, there's some chips like along the bottom here that mine also have, but mine are less. It's like if you chipped it in like part of that was still on the suit, but it still had the cracks. That's what my castings look like. So I think it might be the same torso. But I've seen multiple other 3PO suits, like a bunch of them. I've been to the Lucasfilm archives and I've seen, I don't even know, like a bunch of them. I have pictures of the shelves with all the different tons of suit pieces, and they had multiple suits on stands there. So I've seen a lot of the real ones up close. But the one at the museum is, you know something? I may have seen that one before. I don't remember when they got it, but they got it at the National Museum in, I'm trying to remember what year. I remember when they sent it in. They did a whole photo thing. They showed all the parts coming in. And years before, in like the 90s, they had an exhibit at the National Air and Space Museum. And Star Wars is like the magic of myth. And I saw it in 97. And I can't remember what 3PO they had there. But they had a 3PO suit at that exhibit. I have a photo of it someplace. But I think that was, I think that might have been Empire Strikes Back. But I have to look. I've got photos of it, if I remember correctly. But the Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi suits are really, really similar in most ways. The belly wires are different. The hands are different between Empire and Jedi. The hands are different. But most of the other pieces are the same. I think on Jedi they changed the neck a tiny little bit, the metal piece, because like the fiberglass torso and then the metal neck is kind of like connected on the inside right here. And I think that the Jedi ones are just a freaking smidge bigger, just a tiny bit, but I can't confirm. I have to go really like do some research on it to be sure. Can you model a line that shows where you cut the shorts in the front and the back for easier walking? Oh, like for the inside, like what I'm showing you on the inside leg, I could definitely do that. I mean, I might just like leave a tiny little gap there so when you print it, it's already there. I could do that. I mean, that's what I think I want to do for my own. But again, I could do two versions. And once I finish these, I will do a version that prints in the same way, like in two pieces. So if you want to do a complete two-piece shorts, like if you like the the back form style with two pieces, I'm going to make these so they print in two pieces. And where the bolts are, they'll like hold the front and back together, so you can like just kind of like the torso, where you could like put the front and back, and then like actually put the bolts in to hold them in place. So if if you prefer that, that'll be an option as well. So I like having the options myself. Just depends on the event. Sometimes if I'm doing photos and I don't have to walk a ton, like that's when I usually wear like this pair here. If I'm doing a photo thing, I'll wear these. most of the time. But if I have to walk around a lot, I still wear my back form shorts because they're just currently easier to walk in. But yeah, I can definitely do that. Anyway, I'm not even doing any work here. Let's get back to work. What I can do, just to make this like less of a thing to look at, is I can just select out the piece so I don't have to look at the whole shorts there. It makes it a little easier to move it around. And I just have the pinch thing here, and again, that line following, if you're, whoops, I don't know what I just did. I hit that thing sometimes. That little line there is the, it's called lazy mouse, and it averages out your stroke of your pin, your drawing line there, which helps to get a smoother result. You can see these little warbles. A lot of these are in the real piece. They're just, it's real subtle. It's hard to see it unless you're like looking at a scan. And there's a lot of stuff sometimes you can learn just from seeing a scan of a real thing, because even seeing it in person, there's real subtle things that are hard to, perceive until you put it in the computer and you can line it up to something like really flat. Like, oh, this has a subtle curve to it, or something that very, very hard to see in person. I think I learned a lot about some of the props because of that. I mean, like the CZ3 droid that I did for Regal Robot. Oh my God, the head of that thing is so freaking lopsided, and you can see it. You can kind of see it, but when you have the model and you can just turn it any direction and look at it from every angle, you're just like, oh my God. Same with RA7. RA7 is super, super lopsided. The head is just different from side to side, and that was another one. Just looking at it, really good reference makes it very apparent how weird it is. And also sculpted by Brian Muir. I got a picture of Brian Muir. Me and Brian Muir, I met him in, I don't remember, 2015 maybe. Apparently he lives in Florida, and I didn't find out he lived 45 minutes away from where I used to live, and I didn't know about it until I moved to California. I was like, oh my God, I could have hung out and met up. He's from England originally, so that's interesting stuff. You know what? Speaking of Magic of Myth, I think I've got the original, the book that they sold with the Magic of Myth exhibit. Is it Magic of Myth? Yeah. They sold a book at the museum, and I have that book still. And it has 3PO on the front, and it's the 3PO they used in the exhibit. I could tell you which one it is. I'm pretty sure it's not the Return of the Jedi one. Now that I think about it, I'm pretty sure it's a different one. It might be another Return of the Jedi one, but it's not the same one that they have at the museum currently, over at the National History Museum. Again, I'm going to overly sharpen. I'm going to over sharpen them a tiny bit, but not so much that I make them too weird. Like, I got to fix this line here is a little super soft. And getting this line in, I don't know if I talked about this before, but I was talking about with the legs. I feel kind of like they did the same thing with the shorts. Like, I feel like this whole shorts used to be like a whole mass like this, and then they sculpted down to reveal this piping detail, as opposed to adding the piping detail to the surface. And just by the way it looks, like if you go to this angle, like the planes don't line up normally. And it's the same thing on like 3PO legs and stuff. If you see like the little, the little different fields of the leg in between the piping detail, it doesn't cross over exactly. So it looks like the piping detail was sculpted on versus added on. I don't know. I keep saying that, but I don't know if it's making any sense. Damien Standard brush. I am going to basically pull up this bit and push down this bit. And on the real shorts, this little cutaway in the middle is not as deep as like these areas here. Like it doesn't go all the way down to the base. It's kind of like set in a little tiny bit. Like this is a pretty good representation of the depth, but there's not a lot of geometry here, so it's kind of funky looking. What I can do is, oops, I'm messing this up. BPI, I had it on planar instead of pinch. I'm going to pull this, basically the pinch tool. If I turn on the wireframe here, you can see what it does is it kind of draws the geometry up together like this. You can see that, but if it gets too far out, it'll start to distort stuff. See, this is like my smallest brush right now. I might have to make an adjustment to my settings to make my brush smaller. But you see how it's drawing the geometry closer to the same edge, and then you can, if you do it enough, if I turn this up a bit, you kind of create like a sharp edge. I'm going to turn off the lazy mouse too for example's sake. And you see how it just draws it up into like a crease. And then when you topologize it, that'll hopefully stay sharper. It should. It doesn't always do it. Sometimes ZBrush wants to fight a little bit, but retopologize with better quads, and then we'll go from there. So you can see over here I got a bunch of leg pieces. This is I'm working on RE7 legs currently, but I discovered a thing, and then I was like, I don't know if I should continue with these or keep doing them. I'm working on my CZ3 original scans. We're not going to look at that. So I'm going to take these, and I'm going to do, how many? I got 2 million polys on here, but they're not distributed really where I want them. So it's like this area here doesn't need so many polygons, but this area needs a lot. And because it's a big thing, it makes it kind of a pain in my butt. So, I got a geometry. This just turned out really high. I just unclicked. Let me see something here. Let's see what happens if I do this, if I break it. It's 2.4, 2.34. Wow, okay, it just went up to 6 million polys. So this is really freaking huge right now. So I'm gonna minimize this down so I don't, like working on my own, it's not a problem. I don't know how with the live stream on if it's gonna really have a panic attack. I just turned up the resolution super duper high. Much higher than it really needs to be, which is great. So that means I can probably really rework this line here. Put the lazy mouse back on. Now it'll be good. Now this is one of those things, like if I did this in Blender or even Fusion 360 or something, I would just basically use the loft tool and then like draw a line down the surface and just make a little profile and send these little shapes down the surface. But it's not how they are on the real suits. I'm trying to retain as much of that weirdness as I can. I know I keep saying that, but it is one of those things that I find to be important in the process here. So actually this is a lot easier now that I have the higher resolution. And we'll just keep freaking making it. Do you think the thin PETG print could hold clear coat well and not flake or peel off with friction from legs? Well, I think the legs rubbing on it is always going to be a problem. It's just always. It's unless you pad out the inside of the actual costume legs, you're gonna have issues with the peeling. I mean, these shorts are fiberglass, and you look at how destroyed they are. Like the paint just comes off. You just gotta assume with shorts. I just think of them as a consumable. I really want to try to have like 3 or 4 pairs always ready that I can rotate, so that as I go to wear one until it's dead and then paint it. And what I think I'm going to do is when I do the 2 halves on here, it's like when I make the 2 printable halves that go together like a vacuum form, I'm probably going to create some bucks so I can vacuum form my own shorts and maybe sell vacuum form ones. But here's what I'm going to do that, you know, if Cal Pierce or somebody from Moncal, if you guys hear this, or Jim Sleeth, I think might be doing might do 3PO shorts too, I can't remember. But if you're ever going to vac form the shorts, the thing that I learned at Legacy Effects is, and I covered this in a video, is vac form a pair of shorts while they're still on the buck. You vac form them in white or whatever color. While they're still on the buck, you let it cool enough, and you vac form another clear, thin pt2 layer on the top. And now you got a clear, transparent, protective layer, and you do your metal paint underneath, and then you put another layer over top of your vacuum form shorts. You won't even be able to see it. You won't be able to see it. It's going to look totally fine. But that clear vac form layer will protect your paint. And you can swap that layer as it starts to get scratched up or come apart. You just swap the vacuum form layer, the clear layer over top, and now your paint doesn't get destroyed. Now, I think this is going to work great. So, you know, if one of you guys that's doing vacuum form shorts happens to see this video, go ahead and jump on that. I'm not holding that idea, but when I do mine, I'm going to do those for my own. And maybe I'll sell those. I don't know yet. I don't know if there's enough demand, but if there is, I may make them and sell them. Or do a run of them from time to time. But that's going to be a really good way to protect the metal paint from the abuse of the legs rubbing. And then again, you can swap that. So as it wears out, you can just change out that clear plastic part, but your finish will be protected. And it'll be really thin. You don't need it to be super thick. It's just, you know, enough. So yeah, it's just that thing has been like the bane of my existence. That, and then where the arms go into the shoulders, always just gets beat up really bad. And even when I protect them, they end up getting beat up. But it's like that on all the screen use suits too. If you go look at a lot of the screen use suits, look at the upper arms. They are just destroyed. They just don't look good. Look how freaking wonky that is. All right. Keep going here. Again, overly sharp, a little bit overly sharp, but with the cleanup process, should be in a business. And that's another thing. I'm looking at this right here close up. I could see like the differences in thickness between how thick it is here and down here, which is another sign that they didn't add these lines after the fact. I feel like that's another clue. Haven't been able to contact Cal for a while now. Like you, he doesn't have notifications for his PMs. Yeah, it's like what happens is I get so many freaking messages a day. It's crazy. And besides messages, it'll be like messages or just if it's just comments and stuff too on different platforms. There's so many, and I just can't keep up with it, and I won't get anything done. I'll just keep coming in and checking. And it really inhibits my workflow for the day. Makes my life difficult. So I just hit one point. I was like, I just gotta turn these stupid things off because it's really kind of making my life hard. All right, let's see here. I'm gonna push this in a little bit. I mean, I might even do a set of these without, you know, so I'm going to do multiples, so it won't matter. But I'm going to get the basic cleanup done. I might even go full cleanup on these. I might see how they print and see, because I'm going to have to come back in here and do more anyway, but I just want to get a set made. So I might come and just get these butt lines like sharpened to where I need them, and then print a set and see how much some of this stuff actually shows up once I'm done. And there's another thing too is with the printable ones, like I'm talking about doing the completely hollow version versus one with a wall thickness, is that with the completely hollow version, all of these little details will be inset, which is fine, kind of like a vacuum form. But if I wanted to I could make the inside wall completely smooth so it wouldn't have the indentations from the detail parts, which could stiffen the shorts up along the areas that you don't want to flex as much, like the upper part of the shorts and then some of those ridge lines. It'll keep it from flexing more than necessary, which is a kind of a cool thing about 3D printing, is being able to control those kind of aspects. I like that a lot. All right, I'm going to put on this lazy mouse here. Let's see if it's long enough. Is it on? It's on, but the line is very short. It's funny when you look at the stuff so close, you can see like all the little pixel bumps and everything, but when you print it, that stuff will go away. You won't be able to tell. Yeah, Cal has been, like, I like Cal a lot. He's a super nice dude. But since I've, since I started making my stuff, there's been some element, slightly different sizes. They're very well done. But yeah, man, it took a long time to arrive. I think I've got 2 sets of brass 3POIs around here somewhere. I never use them. The 3D printed ones are just fine, and they're lighter. And I think like anything you do to lighten a suit just makes life easier. And that is good. I wore the suit to wedding. I want a quick print shorts. Jesse's take a long while to print since it's all one thickness. Yeah, see, that's kind of like, I don't remember, like when I looked at his suit parts, they were like, all of them were a lot thicker than I personally would make them. Like, there's nothing wrong with that, especially if you're just, print display in your house, but I'm always thinking things in a way of, being a costume or a prop or something. I always want to kind of change it up a bit. So I like the wall thickness a lot thinner, and I like it to be solid. So I mean, at the thickest, maybe 2.4 millimeters, which is like 3 passes on the 0.8 mil nozzle, is what I consider that. So, and when you're doing ZBrush, it's a little harder to control the exactness of that, but but that's kind of my goal. Thickness is like at the top end is 2.4 mil, and then it's 1.6, 2 passes is like kind of perfect. Because then if you have to reinforce it, you haven't made it so heavy, but it's also pretty strong on its own. Like a 2 pass, I think that these TPU ones are just, I think these are 2 passes. Can we see if I can tell anyway? It might be 3. It might be 2.4. I could measure. Actually, do I have calipers here? A measurement tell you if I got my calipers around here. I don't know. But I printed these pretty thin. You can see they're a little too flexible. And maybe at the bottom of the legs this would be okay, but up at the top it's just a little too flimsy. That's okay. It's a learning process. It's a learning process. And sometimes you don't nail it the first try. But the more mistakes you make, the easier it gets to make good choices later on. That's what I found. Maybe that's a crazy talk, but I like it. All right. All right, this is the, you can really see how, like, this little bumps and stuff. I'm like, how much do I straighten out some of these things? I guess I'm going to try to make them cleaned up with all the weirdness. So, and again, if you're here, just popped in, I'm using the pinch tool to redefine this edge a little bit. And the thing you could do too is, like, I could go in and mask this inset area and then kind of like deflate it or smooth it so it's working separately from the rest of the stuff. And there's a bunch of different ways to do that. You can like mask by ambient occlusion or things like this, where basically it finds the little gaps and masks the areas for you, which is good for painting and stuff too. Like if you're doing VFX work or some kind of graphics, and you need to, your ZBrushing thing, you want to accentuate the detail or make it look weathered, you can basically select by the inset points and then paint those things to look dirty, which I don't do much of that in ZBrush. I'm usually using it for props, but it's a thing you can do. Like your legs that print hollow, those print a lot faster. Yeah, those print real fast. I printed that whole set in a weekend, to a full 2 legs, the whole thing on one printer. It wasn't even like print across multiple printers. That was just one printer, jammed them out. They're very thin though. So to me, that is, I probably said it in the video, but I treat that like a gel coat. So it's just like it gives me the shape, and then I'm going to fiberglass the rest. That's kind of how I see that. So it's not, meant to come off the printer wearable. It's just kind of, it's there. But one thing that I love about printing that way, where you're telling the printer how many walls to do and you just have a closed in part, is that all you have to do is say print 2 wall layer thickness or 3 wall layer thickness, and now you have the other version. You don't have to go in and change the model and fix the thing and do all the stuff. The slicing software takes care of all that. The only thing you have to deal with is like the bridging at the top, so where the the part that's closed on the print is, have to deal with that. And what I like about the Prusa slicer now is it has that weird like webbing thing that it does on the inside. So if you have a little overhang on the inside, like if I was printing these shorts, like this piece right here would be like an overhang that I'd have to deal with if I printed it hollow. That would be kind of, potential get a hole in the top or something. So that's why when I make a thickened one, I'm gonna like smooth that on the inside so it doesn't need to do much to get that to print right. But with the hollowness, when you print it hollow, Prusa slicer makes these strings that go across just enough to give support, start those little ledges inside. And I like that a lot. It's really cool. So yeah, definitely that is a perk to printing that way for sure. Planer. I have those legs in the garage right now. I'm got to do a mold, and I have all this fiberglassing and stuff out. And I was like, I'm gonna fiberglass these legs while I got them out. But again, I think my real goal. Oops, shit. BPI. Keep doing wrong tool. I had it on planer, and I just chopped up my surface. The real thing is, what I want to do is, once I really nail the things down, I want to recreate these legs like the sequel legs, the way that they're made. So they're a high impact urethane. They got a little bit of flex, but they're really sturdy, and they're basically never going to break. Like, it'd be very hard to break the sequel legs. They're super durable. Would you rather print fast but have to do a bunch of fiberglass reinforcement, or just print slower? I would way rather print fast and reinforce it, especially like in a production environment. There's like, man, printing is the bane of my existence. And the thing is, if something goes wrong, if you're working on a print that takes like days and days, and then you get 3 days in, and then you get an error and the whole part's garbage, now you got to start over. Like, just give me the part, and I would way rather not have the stress of having something break. And so much of what I do is printing on like weird deadlines and stuff, so it's just like, how can I get this thing off the printer as soon as possible? It's funny because I've been talking about redoing the RX droids, the files that we did for Book of Boba Fett that were also in Skeleton Crew, and the parts I made, the whole design is very focused on getting the print as quickly as possible with like no support material. Just print as quick as possible and assemble it. And if a thing takes more parts, if I have to print a part in 3 pieces and assemble it, I'll do it in a creative way where it doesn't look like you've done anything. But if that's a faster option than printing it with like tons of support material or if it makes it easier to clean up. Sometimes it's a part that I could print with no support material, but if I separate two pieces now, I can paint them much easier, or I can clean them up much more easily and then just assemble them. Nobody would know, like front, that now you got to like, clean around all the edges and do all this stuff. But if I print it separate now, I can just sand super quick, paint it, and just pop it through the back or something. That's way, 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 way faster. Plus, it makes the paint process easier because now I don't have to mask anything. I can paint that part separately. I always think about that kind of stuff when I'm making things. So it is definitely a thing for me. I am way, way more of a fan of just getting off the printer, even if it takes more cleanup. I don't care. I just want it done. Hate watching it print. And the cleanup's not that bad, and even like a really good print requires a certain level of cleanup. And if it takes me, I don't know, let's say it takes me 2 hours longer to clean up a crappy print than a good print, and I just saved 27 hours of printing, it's like bonus. I'm ahead of the game. I'm already doing the cleanup before the thing would have ever even been done. But it just depends. Like some people don't want to deal with it. They just want to pull the part off the printer and like slap some paint on it and then stick it on a stand or whatever, and that's fine. But it just doesn't typically work for me. And I can't tell you that some of the deadlines I've been on projects. It's like if one big print failed, I would be super out of luck. So especially if it's going like days and days in, it's a no good. All right, DS. We'll go back to the Damien standard brush. I'm gonna try to refine the interior of this little groove a little bit. Basically, what I'm doing, I'm drawing in the center to kind of average it. I'm going, when you draw it, if it pushes inward like this, so I'm drawing down, and then I'm smoothing and drawing and smoothing. And smooth, you hold down shift, and you see it like it'll sort of soften that detail. So I'm pushing it down and smoothing it back. What that'll do is it kind of just starts to average out the I want to say pixels, but it's polygons, because ZBrush calls them pixels. Pixols is what ZBrush calls the polygons in ZSpace. Now, I don't know if I haven't heard that term in a long time, but back in like 2005, it'd be like ZBrush pixels. I guess because of the way it worked, and they had to come up with a new name, and in between polygons and pixels, so the pixels. And the company that used to own ZBrush was Pixologic, Pixoligic. Probably spelled that wrong because I'm terrible at spelling from my head, but I miss Pixologic. They were freaking awesome. And then Maxon came along and screwed up all the fun. All right, there's a very humongous file, so I'm gonna remesh it here. How would you fiberglass the legs? Using stuff from Home Depot work well? It can work fine. When you fiberglass, you really want to like tap down the stuff so that it's like for the legs that I'm printing, the CZ3, the stuff from Home Depot would work fine. The stuff from like a marine supply place is better because it's lower viscosity, so it flows out easier, and it's easier to wet down your mat, your fiberglass mat, or your cloth, whatever you decide to use. Flexible is epoxy. So if you can do epoxy, it's great. Now you get the smooth-on epoxamite, or whatever the hell they call it, and it's worked really great for me for a long time. I know a lot of shops that use it. It's very, very durable. And if I did those legs with the epoxy, I would only do one layer probably for most of them. I maybe do some select spots. I might do two, but I'd probably just do one layer. And then with like these shorts I did, there is a flexibility additive, which I didn't go too crazy with on these. But you can see it's got like a little bend to it. If I didn't add that, it would be stiffer. And oh, see that? Like I cracked the diddle too hard. So it's that's probably just one of the fibers in there giving up. But it has a little flex to it, and if you don't add that, it's very, very, very stiff. Which it depends on what you're gonna do. But I kind of like the flexibility additive just to be a little more forgiving. So I can't remember what it's called. I can oops. Do a polish here and then go and touch the top of these and try to average them out a little bit, shine them up. Let's see what time is it. Oh my god, it's 5:01. I actually got to get out of here in a second, so I'm gonna get off of this thing. I'll be back later. I got to do, today's my day for drone practice too, so I'll be back after the movie, and I'll probably do my hour of drone practice and then go back to ZBrush. I just want to have these on the printer tonight before I go to bed. They're not perfect, it's okay, but I want to get them kind of dialed. Here's another part where you can see, this is why I think that I know I said it 5 times, but I think they sculpted this because this looks like they just took a sculpting tool and ran down here, because the thickness from one side to the other is not even all the way down. I noticed that on the, like if you look at the ones, I put the picture up on my thing from Rancho Obi-Wan from the Forlom shorts, and you can see the same weird warbliness, and you can see that, like, see how it's like longer on this butt cheek than that butt cheek. You can see the same thing on the ones at Rancho Obi-Wan, which is, I think it's cool. There's something about when it's real perfect, it's cool, but it doesn't feel like this is like looks sculpted. Somebody sculpted this by hand and didn't make it in the computer. That's what it looks like, and I like that. I like it. But yeah, the fiberglass Home Depot stuff will work fine. I mean, it's polyester resin, and the fiberglass matte I really like working with, and you shouldn't use fiberglass matte with the epoxy resin. You can use fiberglass cloth, but the matte has some kind of starch in it that they use to make it all stick together, and the polyester resin will dissolve that starch and make it, it's good to go. But the epoxy resin won't dissolve the starch. That's why, like, you can use epoxy resin on some foams, but if you use polyester resin on the same foams, it'll just melt the foam. So I guess it kind of works the same way. It's kind of like almost like its own solvent in there or something. The epoxy does not have that. And the epoxy, although it's still not good to breathe, it definitely does not smell as bad as the polyester stuff. Polyester has got odor is very strong. Again, I'm sure breathing the epoxy is not great for you, but it's more just like the aftermath. If you're doing stuff, just that lingering smell, even on the actual parts, can be a bit much sometimes. Let's see here. So I should probably go put my shoes on. I don't know. Putting stuff down when you're in the middle of it sucks, but sometimes what you gotta do. All right, again, just polishing the surface. Look at this weird stuff. Man. A lot of this is in the sculpt. I'm always like, what do I correct and what do I leave behind? So weird. I'm telling you, we're doing the ZBrush stuff for Regal Robot for that CZ3 head. It was this times 10. There's so many parts that are just so weird. I'm like, okay, I'd have to go look at a bunch of reference photos. I'm like, is this like an error or is this part of the sculpt? I don't know what I'm looking at. Can't wait to see the picture and begin and work with the foam short. Oh, I know, man. I'm excited to do the foam stuff too. I'm very excited for foam shorts. I kind of want to do those for like 3 of my droid projects. I would like to have foam, just go straight with the foam shorts and not even deal with like the printable ones. If I can get them to look as close as I think I can, they're just going to be really, really comfortable. Doing any events where you have to walk around a lot, they're going to be so comfortable. not just the shorts, but I'm going to do whole legs in foam. I'm going to do probably my forearm, CZ3. Even though I have printed CZ3 legs, I'll probably do foam legs for that. And a torso. That one's great for a foam torso. And RA7, and maybe even a 3PO. If I can get them to chrome well, I'm going to do just full foam legs, especially for like the Hollywood Christmas parade, which I do every year. I'd be able to walk around so easy. It'd be amazing. I could do the whole parade route with the foam legs versus the, doing the other things. So we'll see. It should be good. And shorts first. But anyway, I'm gonna log off here and get back to being ready to go see a movie and stuff. And yeah, should be good. My room is upstairs, really close to being done. Maybe I'll put a photo of it up tonight later when I come back on after drone practice. I'll show a photo of what I'm doing in my room because it's cool. It's really cool. It's getting close. I meant to work on it today and I didn't at all. Winter. All right, kids, you guys have fun. I'll be back in, 3 hours or something. So see you then.